Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Valerie Iovine Rogers. I am a physical therapist at Strive Physical Therapy and the Hypermobility Program Director at Mount Sinai's Center for Complex Chronic Illness.
And I'm Sarah Wenger. I'm the Director of Physical Therapy Services for the City of Philadelphia's Ambulatory Health Services, which was part of the Public Health Department. And I'm an adjunct professor at Drexel University, and I was professor there for 17 years prior to this. I'm looking forward to it.
So I know we have all heard the phrases that blame our chronic pain on our mental health and then it's in our heads. And I'm a healthcare provider that specializes in treating this condition, and I still get myself convinced sporadically that I'm an imposter in my own experience with EDS. None of this can be real, and I must be being dramatic, and even after my cervical fusion I needed due to my own HEDS, I still get myself all confused in these feelings, so I get it. We are here today to tell you that it's not all in your head, this is real, you're not crazy, and your mental health is not the reason why you hurt. A lot of people will joke and say, oh man, I'm falling apart. And well, zebras, we're living with a connective tissue disorder that lacks the glue-like protein, so I think we have the liberty to say that occasionally. So this is me saying that it's not all in your head, but it is important to think about chronic stress, chronic pain, resilience, and some protective factors when you have something as real as EDS. So here is what does go on in our heads.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot the clicker.
You can make the clicker go. Okay, so I want to start. Is this on? Can people hear me? No. Okay, we'll start with some definitions, and our definitions are around thriving and flourishing. So we think, especially in mental health, sometimes we think about health as being the absence of illness. But health is so much more than that, right? We need to be thriving, we need to flourish. I have some definitions up here and some resources up here around that, but I think what we're gonna try to focus on today is how do you thrive and how do you flourish, even though you have some challenges, even though you might be in pain, even though you have some things going on. And that's gonna be the focus of our talk today. Okay. So I'm going to dive a little quick into some science here. Do not worry if you don't understand all the things on this slide. What I'm going to talk about are stressors, right? So we've got chronic stress up here at the top. Right. And whoops. Oh, I see. Okay, so we have chronic stress up here at the top, and we're going to talk about the effect that chronic stress, let me back up for a second. Chronic stress can span the biopsychosocial spectrum. So we're talking about physical stress or medical stress or the stress of having a diagnosis. We could be talking about emotional stress. We could be talking about social stressors, financial stressors, any kind of stressors you can think of. That's what we're talking about when we say stressors. So chronic stress can have an inhibitory effect. Still no, okay. Can have an inhibitory effect. Can this be bigger right here where I'm looking by any chance? Thank you. Not the next one, but the one I'm talking, because I'm blind and I can't see anything. So it has an inhibitory effect on the hippocampal formation, right? And that is responsible. I really want to be able to walk around. That is responsible for your sort of problem solving, the part of your brain that thinks through things, problem solves things, and chronic stressors can be inhibitory to that. And that can cause issues with like cognition, it can cause issues with memory, it can make it more difficult to problem solve and think through things, okay? It is excitatory, so chronic emotional stressors are excitatory to your amygdala. Amygdala is your kind of emotional center. If you're thinking fight or flight response, it's responsible for that. So you can get this heightened emotional response or this heightened reactivity. Now, both the amygdala and the hippocampal formation feed into the HPA axis, so the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Don't even worry about memorizing all of that. But the HPA axis, and if you're active online and looking at information about stress, that's mentioned a lot relative to stress. So the HPA axis is really active in regulating your endocrine system and your hormones. And when the influence of these two areas of your brain fiddle with that, you have changes in your hormonal balances. And your hormones, as you know, operate a lot of what's happening with your body. So you can have effects throughout all of your different body systems. So all of this is to say that stress can cause issues in all body systems, right? And this makes sense. I don't want, if you are experiencing a lot of stress, it makes a lot of sense for your body to be good at dealing with stress, right? But if you are focusing a lot of your attention on that amygdala, like I got to deal with stress, I got to deal with what's in the moment, I sort of got to get through today, that's coming a little bit at the expense of sort of planning for the future, or like having time to marinate on things and be reflective, right? And because we're changing all of what's going on with hormones, and I mean, it's changing what's going on. These are like two areas of your brain I'm talking about. It is changing things throughout your nervous system in a much broader way than what I'm speaking of, but I think this helps conceptually understand what's going on. And that can affect your whole body. Now, that sounds super negative. Protective factors or resilience or all of the things that Camille was just talking about, especially that bottom line of, stress management, physical activity, nutrition, so like all that taking care of yourself, that has the opposite effect, right? So that helps us build up our hippocampal formation. It helps ramp down our amygdala and our emotions, and it helps improve that regulation in our HPA axis and improve what's going on sort of hormonally and can help us heal across body systems, right? So stress is this, if you have a chronic illness, you are probably already aware of the impact that stress has. It can really impact how you're feeling day to day. So we're going to talk a little bit about healing from stress. And I tend to shape this again. This is a little bit of an oversimplification, but we can try like top-down techniques and bottom-up techniques. So top-down techniques might be like education, learning about your disease, learning what to do, thinking through and problem solving, like, should I have my POTS kit available when I go to this thing? Like really thinking through and planning, and all of those things are like, we're using your brain in this top-down way to help manage your symptoms. Bottom up, and those are using that hippocampal formation, and by using it, you're training it and building it up and making it stronger. And then the bottom up would be ramping down that amygdala, and that's some of those more body-based things like mindfulness or exercise, or there's a whole bunch of other things that fall into that category, breathing. And then this is a brief, I'll go over this briefly, to just put this in like a societal perspective. We have societal conditions. So there's adverse things that can happen, and I have them listed, and there's positive things that can happen in life in general, right? Then we have threat appraisal. So if something happens, you're assessing how dangerous is this thing, right? And if your world has generally been safe and you have the resources you need and you've got support, something might seem not that threatening, right? If something happens and you don't have what you need and you're already stressed out and there's already 1,000 things going on, that same thing might seem more threatening, right? And then we get into coping skills, and we have behavioral coping and physiologic coping. So physiologic coping are all those changes in the endocrine system and in your nervous system that are happening to help your body cope. And behavioral things are all the things that we do behaviorally. And what I like to point out is this corner here with the behavioral coping, that's the only thing that's visible to other people, right? So for all the things that are going on with you, that's what's visible to other people. And so sometimes people see this, right? Like you have this little thing that happens. I think this happens a lot when we present in healthcare. We have this little thing that happens and people are like, why are you making such a big deal about it? Well, there's all this unseen stuff that's already causing stress that's already on our plates. So I'm going to get to Val quick, but important things here: thriving, flourishing is important. It looks different for everybody. Every individual has their own assortment of stressors and their own assortment of resources and resilience. And taking small steps, super important. If we are trying to go from here to here and we don't quite have the ability to do that, small steps can climb all the way up the ladder. And I always say, wherever you are, that's where you need to start. Take it from there, and little by little by little, and it's not linear, right? You might go up a step and down one and up two and down one, and it can be very circuitous.
Wonderful, thank you. So I would love to jump in with the toolbox of all the ways you can be kind to your mind and you can help yourself through some of these processes that Sarah was just talking about. So first, we have the power of knowledge, and central sensitization is the condition of the nervous system associated with the development and maintenance of chronic pain. When central sensitization occurs, the nervous system undergoes a process leading to amplification of pain signals. Some of the central sensitization ideas include hyperalgesia, which is the increased sensitivity to pain; allodynia, where a normal non-pain stimuli can cause pain; persistent pain; or homuncular smudging, which I have a picture of the brain map here, the homunculus. And basically when you're in chronic pain, those lines get blurred and unaffected regions can really be a victim to some of the chronic pain. You also have chronic pain stimuli that can lead to temporal summation, where it's repeated at the same stimuli, but effectively will lead to progressively worsening pain. So when I first learned about these things, I was unable to see a way that my increasing pain wasn't a fault of my own. I was thinking to myself, okay, I have some pain, but besides that, I must be doing this to myself. It is in my head, and I must be crazy. And it played a really big role when I felt like my symptoms of EDS and my symptoms of mental health started to blur together, and I couldn't detach the two. So time for a reframe. I learned a bit more about the mechanisms behind central sensitization. So we've got neuroplasticity, and that's when the nervous system is highly plastic, meaning it can change and adapt. Central sensitization has changes in the way that the nervous system processes pain, involving both peripheral and central nervous system pathways. You also have increased excitability. There's an increase in the excitability of the neurons in the central nervous system, particularly in a region called the dorsal horn of the spinal cord. This leads to enhanced transmission of pain signals. We have decreased inhibition. Normally, the body has mechanisms to dampen pain signals. In central sensitization, these inhibitory pathways are less effective, allowing the pain signals to be amplified. And we have chemical mediators, things like neurotransmitters and inflammatory cytokines that play a role in this process. These chemicals can enhance the sensitivity, again, of these neurons to pain signals. But helping to understand the science behind the chronic pain helped me to have grace with myself, and it helped me to change the approach to try and defy some of these characteristics. So I want to talk about the power of adapting. These are things that you feel like, there's things, of course, you feel like you can't do anymore because of your EDS, but I want to point out a few things. Just because you can't do something some days doesn't necessarily mean that you can never do it with your condition. Also keep in mind that one activity can look many different ways. Some examples that come to mind is I have trouble with my bike, between my joint pain, my dizziness, my poor balance, and I didn't want to just stop doing something that I loved. So instead I modified it. I got a tricycle, and so now I can stop easily and I can sit on the seat as needed, and there's less of a balance issue. I also use a beach wheelchair. I can walk, but whenever I do on the beach, my ankles roll and my hips move too much, my joints hurt after walking on the sand, so I don't stop something that I love. And instead I got a beach wheelchair so I could get on the sand and allow myself to still do another thing that I do love. Another one is when I was studying for the boards exam and my neck was giving me a lot of trouble. I had my paper down on my desk, but I had these funny looking glasses and they were made of mirrors so that it projected whatever was below me so I could look straight ahead. There's endless adaptations that I've made, listening to what my body needs, like desk ergonomics, or a funny one, but when my hair was a little longer, I'd tie it up and I would use curled hair extensions so I wouldn't have to use the hot tools or spend the time standing to do my hair. Another one is I don't put a towel on my head anymore. I use towel scrunchies. And finally, I actually use a POTS pouch, and I always instruct my patients to carry one with me. So that leads well into the power of being prepared. I always tell my patients to make one of these so that you can switch it from bag to bag. I keep mine in a clear case like it's shown here. That way, if I run into an event like a Phillies game and they decide to be strict about the bag rule, I have the okay to bring this in. I also always keep my ID of person with disabilities from the DMV right in the front. And so mine has compression socks, liquid IV, salt tablets, extra dose of my daily meds and my as-needed meds, my EpiPen, my inhaler. And then the important part here is that I've categorized each of my medications into budget binder envelopes and I've labeled them for how it might be helpful for someone else to find my meds. It has KT tape, extra glasses, snap to activate ice packs, phone-powered fan. You get the point here, but it also has a card with a medical history in case paramedics need that, and it also has a QR to my full medical profile. The important part here is that I have this, and most of my friends and family members know that I do, so they can always jump in to help if they need to. Another aspect is the power of trusting your body and what a mobility aid can do for you. When the choice becomes one of the three, what would you advise your best friend to do? Go to something fun, but have a lot less enjoyment because you are struggling and worried about how your body may make you pay. Stay home and skip the fun thing altogether because of your condition. Or continue to live life and enjoy your life, but have the grace with yourself to take a little extra help where you need it. Treat yourself with the same love and respect that you would treat your best friend. The extra help can be something like a cane, a walker, forearm crutches, or a wheelchair. Just because you use one aid one day doesn't mean you need to the next. It's going to look different every day. And in a world where you have so little control, this is one aspect where you can take control of the things that you need. It's not giving up. It's not giving in. It's maximizing your abilities and participation, and that is something to be proud of. That you care for yourself confidently and respectfully enough to prioritize your needs over the worries of what others will think. And by the way, have you ever seen anyone with an aid and said, dang, that's a sign of weakness? No, absolutely not. Nobody in this room has thought that, so why would anybody be thinking that of you? So march it around or wheel it around as the sign of strength that it is. We've got the power of movement, and movement doesn't have to be the dreaded workout or sport that causes you pain. And I'm here to say, as a physical therapist, sure, I can give you some exercises that can help based on an evaluation to address your pain. But that said, the best exercise for you is the one that you enjoy. The reason I say that, even though it's a little bit out of the box, is finding what you like and adapting it to where you are and your needs is the key to compliance. Consistency with movement, of course, has all of the physical benefits I could talk about forever as a PT, but also for managing your mental health. The movement you enjoy can be the missing piece to your medical management because of the physiologic changes it makes. The one I want to prioritize talking about in this presentation today is the endorphin release. So let's pause here for a second. If there was a chemical that you could get your hands on, and it was a natural painkiller and a mood elevator, what would you do to get your hands on that? I've got news for you, that exists, and that's exactly what endorphins are. And your body releases them with exercise, improving your feelings of well-being, and you just have to find the movement that you enjoy enough to keep doing so that you can reap these benefits. And so as a pair of PTs, you knew this presentation was going to tell you all about the power of movement, right? And these endorphins that you release with exercise can help naturally curb your pain. Then there's so many other benefits like stability, strength, postural control, upright tolerance. And this is another one that I'm very passionate about, is the power of self-pride. Starting to take control of managing something that's otherwise uncontrollable is something to be proud of. So is continuing to make the choice to keep working on yourself for yourself. Everything you do is harder with a complex chronic illness, so you deserve to be proud of the little things you do or try to do for yourself. Progress may be invisible, but you are making it, so embrace the journey. Reclaim control over what you can. You've made it through 100% of your worst days. You're here right now. Tell yourself your empowering story of overcoming adversity with pride, and that will continue to motivate you and maximize your fight. This improves your self-esteem, which improves your confidence and therefore success. So I want to close with the power of you. Hopefully you see that you can thrive and flourish even if you aren't at your goals, but if you're on your way to them. This positive talk to yourself, from yourself, this exercise, this willingness to dedicate yourself to self-care is the biggest part of the healing process. I read a quote by Brian Anthony, and I'd like to say it here, and I hope you feel really empowered because I'll bet it feels like I'm talking straight to you. You are unshakable, not because you don't know pain or failure, but because you always push through, because you always show up and you never give up, because you believe anything is possible no matter the odds. And perhaps what makes you beautiful has less to do with what lies upon the surface, but more to do with what lies within. You aren't beautiful just because of your appearance. No, you are beautiful because the way you choose to live and love, and in the way you embrace all of life's experience, good or bad, in your willingness to bend but never break, and in your courage to believe that the darkness can't hold you as long as you continue to create your own light. You are just like a pearl, made from grit, but full of grace. You are unstoppable. And you know it's not what happens, but how you choose to respond with perseverance in your mind and passion in your heart. Thank you.